rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the semi-professional, prosumer level of the show, which is known as American Perspective. No, I was, 3 Chevy was talking about, we go back and forth. Okay, if you don't go over to Rumble starts, generally I start the Rumble roughly half an hour, 20 minutes before the show. I know, that's kind of weird, 20 minutes to half an hour before the show. That would probably be better phrasing. See, I told you I was only prosumer. Anyway, I start the show, or I open up the room a little early for the Rumblers. That's why you got to get over to rumble.com and get yourself signed up and so on and so forth. I think My News has the record for being first. She's almost every single show. She's in the chat almost immediately after I open up the door. Very dedicated. Thank you. Anyway, as I was saying, so 3 Chevy and I kind of banter back and forth because, of course, when I open up the room, I have to press a button in order to get the transmission to start transmitting and start going in the countdown. And so 3 Chevy constantly gives me crap about whether or not I've pressed the button or not. Sometimes I press it on time, sometimes I don't. Sometimes technical difficulties cause problems and I can't get the button pushed or whatever. So yeah, that's why I'm saying I am far from a professional. Anyway. All right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off tonight. Tonight we have my beautiful and wonderful partner in life, Mrs. Whiskey, is up for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat, if you're wearing one, like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with my beautiful beau, Mrs. Whiskey, as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank her for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. That means we've hit the bottom of the order, folks. That's number 20 in the order. I want to see number 21. Now, of course, if number 21 does come in, then she scoots down to being number 21, and they take the 20 slot. But, you know, that's just kind of how the way things roll around here. Got to make sure she follows up. She follows on the caboose. But anyway, get number 21. All you have to do is record yourself performing the pledge or reciting the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email address. Send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online, and I will get you into the rotation. If you happen to do it on your phone, you can use the share option to do the exact same thing. And it'll give you the option to send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And, of course, I will get you into the rotation. All right. So before I get into tonight's headline sponsor, I am, of course, imbibing. This is a Saturday show, so here we go. There's the Four Roses single barrel. I got maybe one glass left. I'm not even sure that's a full glass, but, one thing left. And here in the fantastic sister to the American Perspective glass. This is the It Takes Stones to Drink Whiskey, or to drink with whiskey. And there's the requisite stones in the bottom of the glass. And I'm going to tell you, man, these are some fantastic gifts that I was given by my Whiskey Warrior P1s. I appreciate them every single time I grab one of them. And they was just fantastic gifts. I have the greatest listening audience across the entire internet ethosphere. Let's just put it that way. But requisite first sip, of course. Ah, yes, Four Roses. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Let's get to tonight's headline sponsor. If I can ever figure out what button I'm supposed to push here, I really need a producer. Anyway. Yeah, you know, 3 Chevy says I used ice tonight with my Jack Daniels. That's fine. Some people like it. I know I used to drink it with ice, and then I don't know, worked myself out of it. So now I'm on to. I still like it chilled. That's what the stones are for, is to chill it. But anyway, all right. Let's get to tonight's headline sponsor, which is the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. And yes, 3 Chevy says all amendments carry a 100-year ascending numerical order guarantee. Actually, technically, I think that would be closer to 250 years, but I digress. Anyway, take a look at this wonderful thing. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. No cheap glue here, folks. It is stitched all the way through the binding and all through the pages and the leather binding on the outside. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and work manufacturing defects, such that if the product falls apart on you or whatever in that time frame, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is, rest in peace, my friend, Buddy tested, Buddy approved. Billy tasted, Billy approved. And my youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you to study for your civics badge in scouting. It'll also help you in your civics exam. It will also help you for your naturalization test. Oh my gosh, this thing is just fantastic. It's got all kinds of uses, not to mention to piss off your leftist, lunatic, liberal friends who may try to destroy it, which that would be entertaining. But it definitely, according to my Whiskey Warrior P1 fans, will give them some sort of a internal gastroenter whatever distress. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, there you go. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Get yours today if you're planning on using these for stocking stuffers. And I highly recommend that you do. They are fantastic stocking stuffers. They slide right in. Believe me, they slide in and they drop right down into the bottom of the stocking. It is just a fantastic gift. You give them to all of your your conservative friends, and they will treasure it for that 100 years. I'm planning on willing this, or gifting it, or willing it, I don't know, to one of my grandchildren or something. Maybe I'll just get their own copy. I don't know. Bury me with it. No, I'm not going to get buried. I'm going to get cremated. But anyway, go to constitution.americanperspective.online to get yours today. Also, go and check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings. And I thank them for allowing me to be a brand affiliate. So, there you go. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good there, Ms. T. I think you need a IT department over there. Anyway, I'm sorry. I digress. All right. Let's go ahead and hit tonight's first segment, which, of course, is On This Day in American History. And, of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It is chock full of all kinds of factoids and information about this wonderful country that we call home. And, yeah, tonight. Oh, by the way, before I forget, if you are flying a flag, tomorrow is Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day. And you need to place that flag at half staff at dawn and then bring it back up. Bring it back up at sunset. So half staff tomorrow, December 7th, for Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, if you are flying your flag. So please do that, obviously, to remember and honor the souls who were taken during Pearl Harbor. Tonight, we're going to talk about the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument, built in memory of George Washington, is the focal point of our nation's capital and probably the world's most famous memorial dedicated to a national hero. Perhaps the most impressive thing about the monument is its simplicity. The majestic shaft of white marble towers 555 feet, 5 1/8 inches into the sky. It has the shape of an ancient Egyptian obelisk, a four-sided pillar that gradually tapers as it rises, ending with a pyramid on top. Construction on the monument, which is covered with Maryland marble, began in 1848. The original design by architect Robert Mills called for the obelisk space to be surrounded by a circular colonnade, which was never built. Delay after delay plagued the project, including the Civil War and a shortage of funds. On December 6th, 1884, when workers finally set the capstone in place amid a howling wind, the Washington Monument was the tallest man-made structure on Earth, a distinction it held until the Eiffel Tower was completed in Paris. It is still the world's tallest freestanding masonry structure, containing approximately 36,000 blocks of granite and marble. Inside the monument, 897 steps lead to the top, but the stairwell is closed to the public. Instead, an elevator whisks tourists to the top for magnificent views of Washington, D.C., from 8 small windows. Those who stand at the monument's base and gaze up at the giant white pillar gleaming against a blue sky never forget the sight. And that is tonight's On This Day in American History. You know, for a lot of people that don't that don't know any better, Washington, D.C. was actually built over a swamp. Sure, you stay up there. Anyway, it was built over a swamp. Yeah. And now all the people that are habitating there are swamp creatures. Oh, talk about precursing or predispositioning, premonitioning, I guess is the best way to say it, of what was happening or what is happening there. Anyway. All right. I'm not much of a sports fan anymore. Sports went woke. I went by because I actually enjoyed sports. When I enjoyed sports, I used it as an escape, just like I use entertainment as an escape, which, by the way, Netflix just bought Warner Brothers Studios. I don't know what the hell's going to happen there, but they bought like all of the franchises, the DC Comics stuff, anything that Warner Brothers owned, Netflix now owns. We'll have to see what happens there, but I digress. The entertainment world and the sports world for me has always been an escape. It has been something that I have used to relax my brain from the horrible things that go on in politics and current events and things of that nature, mostly driven on by the Democrats. Well, that being said, here, just so you know, the team or the NFL actually got beat on Week 12's Monday Night Football between the Carolina Panthers and the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, let's face it, those two teams are not exactly the power draws of the NFL. But the NFL, that particular piece, that was a Thanksgiving week matchup. It was a ratings disaster for the ESPN. It only attracted just over 12 million viewers per the Nielsen numbers that were released on Friday for November 24th to the 30th. It's a disaster number for the NFL. The game actually even pulled less viewers, fewer viewers, I guess, less viewers. I don't know how you want to say that. But anyway, then the Ohio State versus Michigan game on November 29th. That showdown drew a whopping almost 18.5 million. Most NFL games, honestly, average between 19 and 24 million viewers, but the Panthers 49ers vastly underperformed and did something even more embarrassing. They lost to the National Dog Show. That's right. The National Dog Show brought in almost 13 million on Thanksgiving Day. The NFL is going to the dogs. Anyway. Yeah, so apparently tape delayed dogs actually beat live cats. Oh, you just can't make this up. I'm sorry. This is coming from Outkick. I normally don't do entertainment stuff, but yeah, this is oh my gosh. Anyway, and my closed captioning went away. Here we go. I think I got it back now. All right. So there you go. The dogs beat out live cats. Taped dogs, meaning not live dogs. Anyway, God, if Amy was in the chat, she'd be like, yes. Anyway, well, let's talk a little bit for a second about President Trump. President Trump. Now, this I agree with. I'm just going to tell you, this I agree with totally, wholeheartedly. President Trump wants to rename American football. He does. He says we have to come up with another name for the NFL. Now, he said this, of course, when he was at the FIFA 2026 World Cup draw in Washington on Friday. He was there. He also received, apparently, the first ever FIFA Peace Prize, I guess. I don't know why FIFA's giving out peace prizes now, but apparently they are. They've decided that they're going to do that. Maybe that'll become a more prestigious award than the Nobel Peace Prize. It was given to Obama for literally doing nothing other than getting elected, which I don't even understand why that would be the case. But anyway, President Trump wants to rename American football, and I actually kind of agree with him because let's face it, there's really only 2 times that the ball actually even touches your foot. So why do you call it football? See, this is part of the reason why I call it American hand egg. It doesn't even look like a ball. The damn thing's oblong, you know. The pigskin is oblong. Yes, I know I'm being critical of football, and that's America's pastime. Well, no, that's supposed to be baseball. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, I'm in agreement with President Trump. They've got to rename. Mrs. Whiskey just came in and started laughing at me. They've got to rename it for sure. American football. They got to rename it because, well, I mean, all you're doing is throwing the football or running the football. The only time you kick it is when you kick it off or when you kick an extra point. And don't you know they tried to get rid of that extra point stuff not too long ago? They were trying to get rid of that extra point, and that would have taken it even farther away from actual football. Anyway. Trump suggested during the World Cup draw that soccer should be the real football in the United States and that the NFL should find another name for its sport. Yep, I agree. There you go. That's good. Oh, all right. Enough joking. Enough playing around. Let's get down to some serious stuff here. So we've received an update from Harmeet Dillon. Harmeet Dillon has given us or had posted on X a video where she basically talks about the massive election integrity that she has been undertaking. So let's go ahead and head on over to Harmeet, and let's listen to what Harmeet has to say that she has been doing all this time that she's been in her office.
Hi, I'm Harmeet Dillon, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, and I'm here to share an important update about one of my many important duties here at the DOJ, which is enforcing our federal election laws. Here's some facts and figures for you. In the last 8 months, the DOJ has reached out to all 50 states, asking them to share their voter rolls with us so that we can help them comply with the Help America Vote Act, which requires states to maintain clean voter rolls. 4 states complied voluntarily. We sued North Carolina early on, and they are checking the voter records of 100,000 voters who were improperly enrolled on their voter rolls, and they're going to fix their problem voluntarily. We have an agreement in place almost with another dozen states, and I expect very soon we'll be looking at their voter data and comparing it with our records and helping them clean up those voter rolls. Now we have 15 lawsuits pending against 14 states. That's right, California got sued twice, and we are in litigation with them. They're refusing to provide their records, even though many of these states voluntarily provide their voter rolls to nonprofit groups like ERIC and even other groups. And so we are going to make sure that we get to the bottom of those, and then we're going to get to the rest of the states. So we're engaged with nearly 30 states. Here's what we found so far. We've checked 47.5 million voter records. We've found 260,000 plus dead people enrolled in the state's voter rolls, which is pretty concerning. They're going to be removed with the help of the DOJ. And finally, that there are several thousand non-citizens who are enrolled to vote in federal elections. This is very concerning, and the DOJ is partnering with local law enforcement where appropriate to prosecute people who have unlawfully voted in our elections.
Wait. Hold on. Hold the phone. I thought, according to the Democrats, illegal voters or illegal aliens, illegal non-citizens can't vote in our elections. Thousands? Now, notice she doesn't really give a number, so I'm just going to assume that it's less than, say, 100,000 or less than 1 million, and more than 999. But again, folks, these Democrats, how many times have you heard Democrats, oh, no. Illegal voting isn't happening. It's not happening because they can't. It's illegal. They're not supposed to be able to vote, so it's not happening. Yeah, really. Anyway, sorry, Harmeet. Why don't you go ahead and continue and finish this up?
When one person voting who shouldn't have voted is one too many, because every citizen is entitled to one person, one vote assumption that their vote is being counted equally and only with other American citizens. We will not rest at this DOJ with the leadership of the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, until we complete this project and provide confidence to all American voters that the rolls are clean and the elections are free and fair. Thanks so much. Hi.
Well, thank you. I do appreciate that update. That is a fantastic update. You guys are doing great work over there. Yeah. So the Democrats have been saying, no, this stuff ain't happening. Yeah, it is. It's happening. I've told you it's happening. Shoot, I've shown it. I've shown and demonstrated actual evidence and proof. You know, things that leftists don't seem to like. They don't like evidence and proof. They don't like, you know, and I've had idiots on Facebook, and yes, I am going to call them idiots. Well, they're actually complete, utter, stupid morons, but they've been on Facebook and they're like, oh, and they claim, they do all these claims. I mean, if you want to claim that Trump is a pedophile, great. But if you're going to make that claim, you need to back that claim up. You need to back that claim up with verified facts and evidence. There is none. And I just simply ask them, where's your verified evidence? You know, kind of like the verified diary of Ashley Biden that says that Joe Biden showered with her at 11 years old, that she was so scared that he was going to come into the shower with her when she was totally naked at 11 years old, that she would shower late at night when she would know that he was asleep. Yeah, that one? You mean that verified diary that's been verified in a court of law by the FBI and the court, and even admitted by her. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about in terms of facts and evidence, people. That's what we're talking about. And these idiot morons are running around saying, just blaming Trump for something that there is no verified evidence of. Speaking of verified evidence, I told you that Dan Bongino was pissed and was going to go after that whole pipe bomber, the January 6th pipe bomber. Well, they've now got him. And they got him off of information that's been sitting at the DOJ for the last 4 years. It was sitting inside the FBI files for the last, well, technically now 5 years. Pretty close. Almost 5 years. Well, Dan Bongino, he made an appearance on, let's see, I don't know what this is called, but it was Sean Hannity's show, I think. He made an appearance on Sean Hannity's show, and well, like we all figure, Dan doesn't really necessarily hold back when he's got all of the receipts. So let's go ahead and let Dan take the ball and talk.
8 months. Sean, I don't know what the hell this prior leadership team was doing outside of, targeting political opponents, weaponizing the FBI, destroying its reputation, embarrassing agents that are doing really good work out there, catching terrorists, CCP spies, and everyone else. It's almost like they were intentionally trying to decimate faith in institutions. It's horrifying. I don't know what they were doing. I can tell you what happened, though, when we got there, the director and I. My first meeting, I swore in, and I kid you not, probably 15 minutes later, and the people who are in the meeting know, I said, when I get in there, I want a full brief on this pipe bomber case on day one. And I looked at the case agent after getting a full brief on what they'd done, and they had done some a pretty extensive amount of work. They had chased down, I think, thousands of leads, 6,000 plus interviews had been conducted, hundreds of tips, and it still was relatively stale, the case. And I grabbed the case agent on the way out, And I said, you're going to get me this guy. You're going to track this guy down and you're going to find him. You're going to get me this guy. I want him. And that started what's been almost a 9-month operation right now to make sure that we could get full accountability and transparency to the American public and find this guy. And today we did. But Sean, I have to add this because this is really important. You've heard all the cliches, team effort. You hear it all the time in sports. I said it today at the presser, but I want to emphasize this. This was a team. Judge Jeanine, Deputy Attorney General Blanche, people you and I know very well, AG Bondi. You cannot do anything in the FBI without DOJ process, subpoenas, drawn paper, search warrants, complaints, arrest warrants. Who do you think does that? It's not just us. We're the investigators. They're the lawyers. So that team, from day one, I told Pam and Todd, I said, hey, Cash and Cash could not have been more supportive. He's like, Dan, go for it. They said, whatever you need. And their attorneys over there were amazing on this case. So don't just throw the team effort thing out like it's just a standard cliche. I mean it. They really did a great job.
New York.
So there you go. But, it's kind of interesting. The leftist lunatics that were running the FBI before, under the Biden administration, they had all the same information that Dan Bongino and the rest of them had. Why the hell did it take them this long to get to it? I mean, think about this. Dan Bongino did not even swear in when Trump was elected. It was a couple of months later, I don't know, 3, maybe 4 months later, that Dan made the move to become the deputy director of the FBI. So he's running essentially on, well, let's just say probably about a 6 to 8 month window. How is it that the prior administration was able to sit on this for 4 damn years? 4 damn years. And Dan Bongino goes in and says, you're going to get me this guy, you're going to do this, and we're going to catch him. Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious. Oh, I'm being told by a reliable source in my Whiskey Warrior P1s that he was sworn in March. So if he was sworn in March, that means, let's not even count March. We'll just go April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. We're not even into December yet. So that means 8 months, a little over 8 months to catch this guy. And the dumbasses who were running the FBI before this sat on it for 4 effing years. If I want to talk about incompetence, that is definitely, well, I mean, it's either incompetence or straight up malfeasance. I don't even know you could really call this misfeasance anymore, because misfeasance would basically mean that they didn't know what the hell they were doing, which, yeah, okay, I could have that kind of an argument, or you could have that kind of an argument with it. But let's be honest here. They sat on it for 4 years, and it didn't take the Bongino driven FBI, Kash Patel driven FBI to find this guy. 8 months. Now I'm being told that Dan Bongino was sworn in on St. Patrick's Day. That's interesting. An Italian being sworn in on a on an Irish holiday, but whatever. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, seriously, folks, what the hell kind of incompetence has there been inside the past administration? Well, we're seeing it. We're seeing it all over. You just heard it from Harmeet Dillon about all of the voter fraud that is and massive voter cleanup rolls that they are working on. You just heard it from Dan Bongino, where he's like, I don't even understand it. We didn't have anything. He basically didn't say this, but we didn't have anything new. We were just able to follow the leads that were already presented to us. And we got him. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to figure this out. I really don't understand this. Well, one of the potential 2028 Democrat presidential candidates, Grease Monkey himself, Gavin Newsom. Well, Gavin is trying to try and tell the Democrat Party, hey, here's some things that we need to do. We need to kind of clean this up. We need to, get back to where we're within people's, viewpoints, I guess, so that they're the accepted party. We all know that the Democrat Party has been crashing here of late, all of this. Well, Gavin Newsom was apparently on a New York Times Deal Book Summit forum. And, he had this to say with regards to Democrats and where they need to go. Take a listen.
I mean, we could talk about why Kamala lost, which is separate. I mean, it's part derivative of the larger narrative, but issues around inflation scars. We don't talk enough about interest rates. We didn't talk about incumbency. Issues related, you said, beyond related to Israeli politics, immigration, the border in particular. You could talk about all those things, not just 107 days, not just talk about Biden's determination or lack thereof in terms of passing the baton. But I think there's a broader narrative that we have to address. That is, we have to be more culturally normal. We have to be a little less judgmental. We have to be a party that understands the importance and power of the border substantively and politically.
Okay, wait, what? So, Gavin Newsom, let me see if I can break this down. Gavin Newsom is basically saying, and by the way, I just want to point out, let me just go back here. Come on. Hang on. Oh, of course, it's going to fail out. Damn it. Did you see how he was sitting in the beginning? I don't know of any man that sits that way. He's like covering up his balls and like crossing his legs and slipping one foot under I don't even know. Anyway, the point being is that this guy is sitting here saying, well, we have to be culturally normal. We have to become culturally normal. The leftists are not going to allow you to be culturally normal. He says, we have to be more culturally normal. We have to be a little less judgmental. We have to be the party that understands the importance and power of the border. Wait, what? In other words, what you're saying is that you actually have to become conservatives? I mean, yeah, whatever. Now, he apparently never explained what he meant by culturally normal. I can tell you what culturally normal is. Culturally normal is understanding that race is not that big of a deal, understanding that you're going after the kids with your trans ideology and all this other crap, trying to make women give up their spaces for biological men. Okay, here's what's not, or here's what you guys need to do to be culturally normal. You got to give up almost every single one of your leftist ideologies and everything that you're sitting here going on and on and on about. You want to become culturally normal? Culturally normal is recognizing the fact that there are enemies in this world that are looking to destroy the United States, that we don't need, that Americans do not need to be, soft on crime, soft on terrorism, soft on religious bigots that are coming over here and trying to change America into something that it's not. Yeah. They become culturally normal, like, oh, I don't know, support ICE. Support law and order. You want to become culturally normal? Don't sit there and say that the white man is your problem. No, folks. Here in America, let me just I'm just going to tell you, I'm putting it all to rest. Your problem with what you have going on is, here's a surprise, your problem. It has nothing to do with the blame game. You don't need to be blaming anybody else for your lack of ability to get up and do the work and put in the time to get where you need to go. This is called the land of opportunity, not the land of we're going to give you everything. You want to be culturally normal, that's what you need to do. And by the way, this isn't the first time that Governor Newsom has tried to nudge his party back toward the center. He's consistently, repeatedly distanced himself from the excesses of wokeness. Yeah, the excesses of wokeness. Folks, these people are not going to they're not going to come back to the center. These leftist lunatic morons that have taken over the Democrat Party, they are not going to come back to the center, regardless of what anybody thinks. And in fact, they've even fomented an entire generation now, because we're talking about 30 to 40 to 50 years worth of this crap. They have now fomented a generation that actually believes that if somebody calls you a name, like for an example, Tim Walz being called a retard by the President of the United States, that actually is violence. Seriously. You think I'm lying? Now, do you remember the phraseology of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me? Yeah. Yep. Man, I got to tell you, whenever somebody would sit there and like call me a name, whatever it was, and that's pretty much where I am today. I mean, especially if a leftist, lunatic, idiot, complete and utter stupid moron decides to call me a racist, there is only one complete answer to that. You call me a racist, I'm going to say F you. That's it. Because there is no other. I mean, if I go and try to defend myself, that's just playing their game. And this is one of those things that basically is what's happening here. Now, there is a poll that just came out came from the company called FIRE, F-I-R-E. They conducted a poll of college students that included questions about their attitudes towards speech. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. That is a 90% rate. They believe that in at least some circumstance, speech itself is classified as a form of violence. Wait, what? Speech itself is violence. See, this is the problem that the leftists have. The leftists are complete, utter, stupid morons, such that, if you call them complete, utter, stupid morons, which, by the way, when I do that, I am simply correctly and accurately stating a fact. That is not calling somebody names. Calling somebody a name would be, I don't know, calling them a, I don't know, whatever. I can't even think of an example right now. But when I sit there and tell you that you are a complete, utter, stupid moron, it's because you are. You are so damn stupid. You leftists are so damn dumb that you can't even, I mean, seriously, you're sitting here, that's, your words are violence. So I've committed violence on you for calling you out for being completely stupid. Yeah, I guess. Now, I mean, when you see this, you would think, okay, well, all right, maybe they're talking about fighting words. Fighting words. which, could amount to threats of violence. For an example, like if, I'm going to kill you or something along that lines. I mean, seriously. That might be a call to violence, or shouting at a crowd to, like, get that mother effer. That might be fighting. No. No. So apparently the college fix, which took a look at this, divided the results, and they were, well, yeah, let's just say typical for a leftist lunatic. When the respondents were asked how much the statement "words can be violence" described their thoughts, 47% answered with completely or mostly. 28% said it describes their thoughts somewhat, and 15% said slightly. Additionally, around 59% of students said silence is violence, and describes their views at least somewhat, though only 28% said it describes their thoughts completely or mostly. Oh my God. Silence is violence. So in other words, if I don't stand up for, I don't know, some leftist lunatic doing something stupid, yeah, that's violence. Being quiet about a criminal doing a criminal act, that's violence, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, the company Fire, their chief research advisor, that's kind of an interesting when you see it written, Fire Chief Advisor. Yeah, anyway, their chief advisor, research advisor, Sean Stevens, said in a news release following the poll, quote, "When people start thinking that words can be violence, violence becomes an acceptable response to words." Now think about that for a second. When people start thinking that words can be violence, violence becomes an acceptable response to words. Here's an example, and it's the greatest example in the world right now. Look at Charlie Kirk. All Charlie Kirk was attempting to do was bring the debate to talk about things that would normally not be discussed in a public forum, and he was killed for it. So apparently the left, and by example or by extrapolation is the words that I'm looking for. By extrapolation, the college students seem to believe that words themselves can be violence, and so physical retaliation is acceptable. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Coco. Poopy head. I appreciate that. Anyway, or poopy face. Sorry. Yeah, I was struggling. I was struggling to come up with a name. Anyway, college students still think that someone's words can be a threat, even though Charlie Kirk was literally murdered for words. This is completely antithetical to free speech in an open society where open debate is where we can air our grievances and potentially come to an understanding. So apparently, according to the left and the leftist lunatics in the college campuses, my videos would be a call to violence, and therefore it is acceptable, according to them, it is acceptable for them to inflict physical violence on me, just because I am simply stating my position, my opinions, and holding them up with facts and evidence, logic, reason, and a complete and utter understanding of how the world actually works in reality. See, this is the problem. This is seriously the issue, folks. This is the problem with what we have with the leftists today. because they're sitting here and they're like, I mean, well, another perfect example that just happened just recently. Thank you for the reminder. Tim Pool got his house shot at. All he's doing is running a podcast. That's it. He's doing nothing more than what I am. Now, granted, he is way more popular than I am. But as far as that, it's like, really? Really? So just because somebody says something that is acceptable for you to use physical violence against them, this is part of our problem. This is a big part of our problem today. And this is why the left keeps wanting to try to silence people who are bringing controversial views to the conversation, trying to silence folks like myself who bring facts and evidence and truth to the entire conversation, and the narrative crumbles. But because speech is violence to them, they can come back at these people, or even, well, thankfully they haven't come back at me, but they can come back at these people and they can actually do what is abhorrent, which is, in the case of Charlie Kirk, kill him. And that to them, to the leftist lunatics, is exactly acceptable. Now, the poll, unfortunately, now this is the other part that is a little bit scary. The poll also showed that moderate and conservative students have grown less supportive of disruptive or violent tactics to stop campus speakers. While liberal students, of course, support those tactics, it's stayed the same or risen slightly compared to when they did this same poll in the spring. So they're getting to a point where the leftist liberal students are getting more and more violent. They're finding that using disruptive or violent tactics is more and more acceptable. Thankfully, moderate and conservative students are growing less supportive over this. But let's face it, the exact number of moderate or conservative student bases in these college campuses is shrinking by the day. Shrinking by the day. Folks, we've lost so far the ability to be able to reason, come to a consensus within our public square, be able to speak freely, because the liberal lunatic left has decided that speech itself is violence. This is a huge problem, folks. Huge, huge problem. And while we sit here and allow this kind of thing, you know, college campuses used to be where free ideas and the expression of those free ideas was essentially uplifted. It was encouraged. It was brought on, the idea of being able to speak and open up to all sorts of ideas was the ability of college campuses. That was the brilliance of them, because you could air out ideas that were not normally able to be aired out in the public square in a college campus, and because it was a controlled petri dish. And yet, these leftist lunatics are now getting to a point where, no, you cannot air out anything that is, well, in this case, conservative. In this case, discussing reality. This is not This is not what our college campuses are supposed to be. They are supposed to be safe spaces for the free expression of ideas, to have those debates, to have the ability to air out and discuss and debate and come to a consensus and a conclusion. And these leftist lunatic morons, especially the leftist lunatic moron professors that have infiltrated all of our schools, see, this is part of the reason why our higher education system is going down. This is ridiculous. And yet here they are. And they're now saying that it's to them, it's completely acceptable to attack somebody physically attack somebody when all they are doing is speaking words. That's it. That's it. What a ridiculous world that we live in. All right, before I move on to my next topic, my next subject, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Rumble Premium. For those of you who have not noticed, although you should have, but for those of you who have not noticed, Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to the standard big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech, like provides the center square, the public square, to allow the free exchange of ideas and debate. And now you can even do this further with Rumble Premium, which is an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform. You get no pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you came for, like this show. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. All you need to do to get that $10 off is go to rumble.com/premium. That's rumble.com/premium. For those of you that don't know, that / is your question mark key. Rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's STUDIO. And you will be able to get $10 off that annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO, to get $10 off an annual subscription when you subscribe to Rumble Premium. No ads, more freedom in the content that you actually care about. That's the deal. Go to rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO, to get your $10 off your annual subscription. All right. Thank you, Rumble. All right, folks. Well, here's another part that the leftists don't seem to get. The leftists do not seem to understand. The leftists do not seem to understand our Constitution. They do not seem to understand They do not seem to understand that the president has control over the National Guard and can actually deploy it in certain circumstances on American soil. Well, that was upheld 2 days ago by an appeals court because a lower court stupid-ass federal judge, more of an activist than a jurist, decided to put a court order on the president to end the deployment of the National Guard troops in Washington, D.C. And now a U.S. appeals court has basically said, yeah, you're wrong, and has rescinded that, and has now allowed the National Guard troops to stay up until at least February of 2026. Excuse me. Now the cholera. Now the abbreviated ruling that came out, the 3-judge appellate panel noted that their decision should not be construed in any way as ruling on the merits and is intended to give the court time to consider the case. In its appeal in the November 20 injunction issued by the U.S. District Court Judge Gia Cobb, a Joe Biden appointee, the Trump administration cited the Thanksgiving Eve terrorist attack against the 2 National Guard members of Washington, D.C. that left one dead, the other still in critical condition, although doing better. I'm telling you, this is going to go to SCOTUS, and SCOTUS is just going to be like, yep, all right, that's it. We're done. You guys don't seem to get it. You can't block this. You can't do this. Anyway, the lawsuit was filed by the District of Columbia Attorney General Brian Schwab, who is a Democrat. And he was accusing Trump of unlawfully taking control of the city's law enforcement. How could he unlawfully do it when it's in the freaking law as known as the home rule? These people have got to have some serious cognitive dissonance not to be able to understand their own law. Anyway. Whatever. Anyway, they're basically legal challenges by the way, persist across the country for many of these deployments. The U.S. Supreme Court is expected to weigh on the broader issue of National Guard deployments in cities such as Chicago. They should basically say, yeah, you dumbasses, you're not supposed to do this. End of story. So, yeah. I mean, I've shown you on this program where it states, literally, within the Insurrection Act, where the president can actually deploy the troops to help enforce federal law when the local government refuses to do it or literally can't do it. Yeah, anyway, whatever. These people. Well, some good news if you live in the state of Florida anyway. Apparently, Ron DeSantis has now laid out. Now, look, I got to tell you, Ron DeSantis, I mean, he would have been my pick. He would be my pick for president had it not been that he decided to go up against Donald Trump. When Donald Trump jumped in the ring, Ron DeSantis should have been like, you know what? I'm going to finish up as being governor, and I'll come back in potentially 2028. Okay? And let's be honest, I mean, Ron DeSantis is still young enough that even if we look at a Trump, Trump ends his term and then J.D. Vance steps in and has eight years, Ron DeSantis still has a good chance. Okay? Ron DeSantis still has a good chance of being able to become president. All right? Now, that being said, he definitely is probably the best governor of the United States. So he has now come out and detailed a phased approach to eliminate property taxes in Florida. And he is requiring, or with a required 2026 ballot vote. The governor says that that 60% of the voters would need to pass the proposal as lawmakers move the changes through the House. So he detailed the next regulatory steps for the state's effort to eliminate property taxes on primary residences in Florida. He said on Fox Business, Varney and Company last Friday, people are being pinched across the economy in a lot of things. We're doing fine at the state level, but the local property taxes are hurting people. He says the reality is these local governments have overspent and people are paying more and more for that. And at some point, it's like, when is enough enough? Well, you could even go so far as to say the federal government is really overspent too. Folks, if you really want to see a good, efficiently run government, all you have to do is take a look at the state of Florida. I'm just putting it out there. Just look at the state of Florida and how they run their government and how they run their state. And I got to tell you, man, they are hands down probably the best out of the 50 in terms of how they do this. Anyway, DeSantis reiterated on Friday that the goal is to eliminate property taxes completely for what he calls homesteaded residents, meaning not the snowbirds that come from frickin' New York, but the ones that actually live there on a permanent basis. Not the ones that actually go and, buy a vacation home in Florida. No, those folks are going to still be taxed properties. Okay. And so anyway, this move, by the way, if it was adopted, would make Florida the first state in the nation to eliminate property taxes on primary residences while also having no state income tax. Lawmakers are reportedly advancing a package of proposals in the Florida House that include a $500,000 homestead exemption with a potential maximum of $1 million for seniors, a cap on assessment increases, and the option of eliminating property taxes on homesteads altogether. According to the Florida Policy Institute, the property taxes generate roughly $55 billion annually and provide around 18% of county revenues, 17% of municipal revenues, and up to 60% of school district funding in many areas. The group warns that eliminating property taxes could force a dramatic increase in other revenue sources. In some estimates, raising the state sales tax from 6% to as much as 12%. Now, DeSantis' office pitched the proposal in March and has since vetoed a study on property taxes that evaluates how local governments use tax revenue and what happens if they are reduced. DeSantis clarified that the tax cuts may need to be phased in and 60% of voters will need to pass the proposal on the 2026 ballot. Now, this is pretty interesting, folks. This is pretty interesting. And according to DeSantis, the majority of our revenue for property tax is from non-Florida residents because people have second homes and commercial property. So it ends up about 30% in total property tax revenue. Now, you may have to phase it in. There's going to be some things we're going to do. We're sensitive to all that. I want something that can work, and I want something that can pass, DeSantis said on Friday. The governor also claimed that local property tax revenue has risen significantly since the estimated $32 billion number in 2019, giving the state the ability to substantially increase its rainy day fund. Anyway. All right. Ooh. You know, anytime the government can lower taxes is a good thing. Anytime the government can lower regulations is a good thing. I honestly believe that if the federal government were to get back into, or back within, I should say, their constitutionally mandated boundaries, we wouldn't have a problem with $38 trillion being spent, because the vast majority of money that's being spent is on unconstitutional social programs that are not a part of Article 1, Section 8 in the U.S. Constitution. And those same programs are not open to fraud, like what we just saw in Minnesota. That's right. Apparently, this welfare fraud scandal by the Somalis in Minnesota is actually worse than what people think. So we've been talking about this a couple of times, and it's a Somali-tied welfare fraud scheme that was occurring in Minnesota. It's likely far worse than the American people are being led to believe, involving even complicit state government officials and totaling far more stolen money than original early estimates stated. All of this is according to Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller. Billions of taxpayer dollars have been stolen from the state, and much of the welfare fraud has been tied to Somali immigrants. Sorry, migrants, whatever. Anyway, as first reported by the City Journal. And alarmingly, some of the money stolen was allegedly funneled to al-Shabaab terrorists. Miller, quoted on Fox News, said, "We believe the Somali fraud operation in Minnesota is the single greatest theft of taxpayer dollars through welfare fraud in American history. We believe we've only scratched the very top of the surface of how deep this goes." Miller noted that some of the reported welfare scams include people pretending that children have autism who are not in fact autistic, and pretending to enroll people in food programs when in fact nobody was ever enrolled. These fraudsters, Miller said, engaged in massive fraud, lying, and theft and grift on a scale that we've never seen before in American history. Because the total bill, the total tab for this is going to be far beyond the numbers being reported, suggesting that we are dealing with billions of stolen tax dollars tied directly to these welfare schemes. Well, you know, these welfare schemes occurred in a state. And oftentimes, you need to understand that welfare, especially welfare that is connected to the federal government, has to be pushed and approved by certain individuals within the federal and state government. Then all of a sudden you have things like this. Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar caught posing in photos with the Somali fraudster, who, by the way, was an illegal alien. Just so you know. Pictures have surfaced where, this with Tim Walz, here's Homeland Security. They put this up on their X account. Let's take a look at these photos. So there's a picture of Tim Walz with somebody. And there's Ilhan Omar with the guy. Yeah. And there's, oh, look at this. There's the guy that was trying to be mayor or something like that. And then there's somebody else. I don't even know these people. But, yeah. And there he is being arrested by police. Anyway, Ilhan Omar and the Somali fraud apparently may reach close to $8 billion. $8 billion. Oh my gosh. Now I'm going to be honest with you. In a just world, Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar, they'd be done. Politically, they'd be finished in a just world. They wouldn't even be a part of it anymore. They'd be gone. They'd be done. They'd be arrested. They'd be put in jail. So the question has to be asked, well, we already know that Tim Walz is totally incompetent, allowed this crap to happen on his watch as the governor. We all know this, okay? We all know this. But the question now has to be asked, and Ben Shapiro has done a piece in the Daily Wire where he asks this question. What did Ilhan Omar know, and when did she know it? Because with fraud this big, it is almost impossible to not have elected officials not know about it. And by elected officials, I mean people like Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar. There's no way. So he put in a nice piece, and he's like, it seems that the Somali welfare fraud scandal is now breaking into full view, and it's hitting a lot of people who are elected officials, including Governor Tim Walz and possibly Ilhan Omar. Again, you can't have this kind of fraud. You cannot have this kind of abuse of the system without having some sort of a, shall we say, partner in the entire thing? Partner? Somebody who may have known about it and didn't and tried to cover up and not provide any kind of provide cover for it to prevent any type of serious scrutiny over this? Folks, these are Democrats. These are Democrats. And Democrats, they are seriously the most corrupt. Out of the two parties, the Democrats are definitely the most corrupt. Than the Republican Party. Oh, and Nana of JJS points out co-conspirators. Yes. So anyway, let's see. Ben Shapiro points out, to understand why this matters so much, we have to understand that it is all tied to a couple of major national issues. One, of course, is mass migration from third world countries. Is that something that America should be pursuing? No. I'm just answering that right now. No. Ben continues and says, the second is a gigantic, unaccountable welfare state in which billions of dollars can simply go missing, which takes years to uncover. He says the two stories are intertwined. When it comes to the question of mass migration, the Trump administration has taken an incredibly strong position that mass migration, particularly from countries that do not adhere to American values, should be significantly limited or curtailed. That is 100% true and should happen. There's no reason for somebody who basically doesn't share our values to come here and get all this basically free shit. Okay? There's no way. And he continues and points out that this is a very open question, implicated not only by the Afghan national who shot two members of the National Guard, killing one, but also by this gigantic Somali welfare fraud case in Minnesota. The Wall Street Journal, he points out, what happens when welfare becomes not a temporary hand-up, but an ingrained expectation of American life. Universal basic income. Anybody heard that before? Wall Street Journal continues and says, for an ugly glimpse, look at the astonishing fraud unfolding in Minnesota. Turns out those GOP reformers were right to call out fraud in the One Big Beautiful Act. The White House this week published a memo titled, "Yes, there's something wrong with walls, and it costs taxpayers $1 billion." It's actually higher than that. Yeah. Some 86 individuals have currently been charged with defrauding Medicaid and the federal child nutrition program in Minnesota. Yes, they are literally stealing lunch money from kids. Now, I'm just going to put this into perspective, okay? And this is going to sound like a pretty bad perspective in some ways, and frankly, I really don't give a crap. But the fact of the matter is, if it wasn't for federal Medicaid, if it wasn't for federal child nutrition programs that are unconstitutional in accordance with Article 1, Section 8, this would literally be a Minnesota state problem. This would not be a national issue. This would not be an issue that the federal government would be involved in. If they had stayed, meaning Congress had stayed within their constitutional boundaries, none of this would even be going on. And you wouldn't be having people, because again, folks, look, the only way that these criminals are being rewarded by doing this is because of the massive amount of money that they are able to make over this. If the money is not that great, the risk becomes more than the reward, and therefore these criminals don't bother doing it. Anyway. Now, what's even more amazing is the fact that this kind of crap worked for years, that nobody ever questioned it. Nobody ever bothered to look. Nobody ever saw and acted on the red flags. Not one single person questioned all of this. And see, this is what happens when you have a large program, a government-run program, because government sucks when it comes to this stuff, because it's not their money. They don't give a crap. It's your money, not theirs, but they don't care. See, this is the whole problem with having a third-party payer system, regardless of what kind of system it actually is, whether it's healthcare or food stamps or whatever. They just don't care, because to them, the money is still going to flow in. See, if we had the choice of, like, you know what, we don't agree with where our money is being spent, and so we're going to curtail that, we're going to cut that off. No, you can't, because the federal government sends the IRS with guns, and they come and they take the money from you. See, this is the problem that we have. This is the biggest problem that we have with government running these programs. These programs could be much more efficient and definitely cheaper if they were run by private citizens, which is what our framers intended. They had absolutely zero intent of having the federal government be in charge of these kinds of things. Zero intent. You weren't even supposed to have these kinds of things. Things like, making sure that the people had food, had shelter, any of that kind of crap. No, the federal government isn't even a part of it. Just read the Constitution. Just read the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 tells you exactly what the federal government is supposed to do. And I guarantee you there is nothing in that list. There's 18 items. 6 of them have to deal with defending the country. There is nothing in that list that says that the federal government guarantees you health care, that the government guarantees you food, that the government guarantees you housing or a cell phone or any of these other freaking programs, a income, just to live on, an income. There's none of that in the Constitution. And the Democrats consistently throughout history have been the ones to foment that in the people's minds. And they don't tell anybody about it. They cover it up. They've snagged the education system. They don't even teach real civics anymore. They've snagged the education system. They don't even tell you about the Constitution other than certain parts of it. See, the federal government is not supposed to be your nanny. The federal government is not supposed to be your provider. If anything, it would be the states that would do it because of the 10th Amendment, which literally says if it's not written in the Constitution nor specifically prohibited by it, it is a responsibility of the states. That's it. And we've gone so far away from the original intent of the Constitution. And we've gone so far away from the interpretation of the Constitution that we're even talking about what birthright citizenship actually means. That we're sitting here having this conversation in 2025 when it is clear that the historical record does not show that just because you're born within our borders, you actually gain something. You don't. You don't. Oh, and by the way, here's another scheme. So we already know about the kids scheme. We already know about the welfare fraud. Well, here's another scheme. A 28-year-old woman allegedly launched a company called Smart Therapy that claimed to provide one-on-one behavioral therapy to autistic children. She employed relatives with no formal education and recruited parents to enroll their non-autistic kids in her therapy sessions by paying them kickbacks of up to $1,500 a month per child. Some of the parents, in a kind of a twist, some of the parents allegedly extorted the woman by threatening to enroll their children in other autism centers if they weren't paid bigger kickbacks. Anyway, Smart Therapy allegedly billed Medicaid for all the kids' supposed therapy, as well as their transportation to the appointments. Submitted false claims for meals to the state's food programs. In another indictment, 8 individuals this fall were charged with fraudulently billing Medicaid to help recovering addicts, to find stable housing. Yeah. This has been nothing but a big Ponzi scheme, and the Democrats built the entire massive infrastructure that is happening here. And lots of people took advantage of it. In this particular case, they were mostly Somalis. And the left stream media is trying to create a rationale for all of this, trying to create this rationale for why these Somali aliens were in the United States. Yeah. This is going to get bigger, folks. Going to get bigger. As just about every single Democrat fraud, abuse, corruption scandal is, this is going to get bigger. And it's all been paid for by your tax dollars. You, the American taxpayer. If you're not pissed off at your government yet, you really should be. And you should be on board with this program. You should be on board with the idea that we need to get the federal government back within its constitutional boundaries. Because if you look at this and you think, that's okay, it's no big deal, you're an idiot. You're a complete, utter, stupid moron, which is what all leftists are. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget, before you take off, hit those thumbs up, thumbs downs, or, of course, if you're 3 Chevy, thumbs sideways across all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you on Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your weekend. Have a fantastic Sunday. We'll see you on Monday. Good night, everybody.